UFC President Dana White isn't fully convinced about Alex Pereira's desire to move up to the heavyweight division, at least not yet. Following UFC 320, White addressed the media and revealed that Pereira had approached him about the move just hours before his fight. According to White, he unexpectedly ran into Pereira at the UFC Performance Institute earlier that day. "I was at work, had a bunch of meetings, and went over to the pie," White explained. "He was the last guy I expected to see there. I asked what he was doing, and his team told me they want to fight at heavyweight. I said, how about we win tonight first? Then we can talk about heavyweight." Pereira, who previously competed as a middleweight before becoming a force at light heavyweight, has expressed interest multiple times in moving up. His name has even been floated for a potential fight with Jon Jones, something fans have speculated about for quite some time. Still, White remains hesitant about giving the green light to such a dramatic jump. "Look, he was a middleweight," White said. "Now we're talking about him moving up 2 weight classes in the UFC. It's not like boxing where guys move divisions more fluidly. This is a massive leap, especially in a sport like MMA." White was careful to point out that it isn't about doubt in Pereira's skills or star power. In fact, he praised the Brazilian's impact on the promotion and acknowledged his remarkable rise. However, he believes the light heavyweight division still holds meaningful challenges for Pereira and sees no immediate need to push him into the heavyweight ranks. "It's not that I have major reservations about it," White continued. "He's an incredible fighter, and I like him a lot, but he's in a division where there are still interesting fights. Unless he's looking at retiring soon, I just don't see why moving him up makes sense right now." White admitted that if Pereira pushes hard enough, the UFC may eventually agree. "At the end of the day, if he wants it so badly, maybe I'll say yes. But for now, I think there's plenty left for him to do at light heavyweight." With Pereira's ambitions clear, but White's cautious stance equally firm, the debate over the champion's future continues. For now, fans may have to wait to see whether Pereira cements his legacy further at light heavyweight or dares to test himself against the giants of the heavyweight division. Like, subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated. Your support means everything. Move on to another news. Mike Perry returned to BKFC with a decisive performance that reaffirmed his reputation as the sport's most explosive figure. In his first appearance with the promotion in over a year, Perry weathered an early onslaught from Jeremy Stephens, absorbed several sharp shots, and then methodically took control, landing heavy, sustained punishment that culminated in multiple knockdowns and a referee stoppage. From the opening bell, the bout was framed by Perry's resilience and Stephens' aggressiveness. Stephens found early success with rapid combinations, but Perry's composure and power ultimately proved the difference. After taking the initial pressure, Perry shifted momentum with crisp, damaging strikes that repeatedly rocked Stephens and forced the contest's conclusion. The stoppage underscored Perry's finishing ability and his capacity to impose his will once he established range and timing. The post-fight moment quickly became one of the evening's defining images. Conor McGregor stepped into the ring to offer a personal congratulation, acknowledging the emphatic nature of Perry's victory. In the interview that followed, Perry delivered his trademark bravado, thanking the promotion and calling out detractors in equal measure. "I'm grateful for the opportunity," he said, acknowledging promotion figures and supporters. He added a defiant flourish to his remarks, unapologetic and unrepentant about his persona inside and outside the ring. Perry also used the moment to engage with the division's championship picture. He faced off with BKFC middleweight champion Dave Mandel, who has publicly sought a match with Perry for years, accepting the implied challenge with confidence. Perry's challenge was blunt and self-assured. He claimed previous knockout wins over Mandel and insisted he was prepared to do it again, expressing readiness to make the fight happen immediately. Promoters and fans now face an obvious next step question. Will BKFC capitalize on the clash between two of its most marketable combatants? Perry's emphatic return and his public call out of the reigning middleweight champion create a compelling narrative for a title showdown. For now, Perry leaves Newark with another high-profile victory and a renewed claim to being the face of bare-knuckle fighting. Assertive, unbowed, and unmistakably dangerous. Move on to another news. Arman has made it clear that he doesn't believe Islam Makhachev could defeat Khamzat Chimaev if the two ever shared the cage. Speaking in a recent interview, Tsarukyan explained why he feels the reigning lightweight champion would struggle against the undefeated middleweight and current welterweight force. Makhachev is already preparing for a historic challenge. On November 15th, at UFC 322, he is scheduled to face newly crowned welterweight champion Jack Della Maddalena. A victory in that bout could significantly bolster his claim as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Makhachev has even hinted at moving up to middleweight, potentially targeting a fight with Chimaev, who currently sits atop that division. When asked about such a matchup, Tsarukyan was quick to dismiss Makhachev's chances. Of course, Khamzat wins, he said. Their physical dimensions are completely different. Wrestling with Khamzat is unlike wrestling any welterweight. He clamps onto you like a tick, and Islam is still a lightweight by build, by frame, and by everything. No matter how much weight he tries to put on now, it could backfire. Extra kilos could slow him down, drain his cardio, and hurt his performance. Tsarukyan noted that most observers would likely side with Chimaev for the same reasons. Not only has Chimaev looked dominant in multiple divisions, but the 30-pound difference in natural fighting weight makes the matchup a steep challenge for Makhachev. While the fight remains a fantasy booking at the moment, Tsarukyan's comments add fuel to ongoing fan debates about who truly reigns supreme among MMA's elite. The Armenian lightweight contender also addressed his own future. He is scheduled to face Dan Hooker on November 22nd, and a victory could potentially set him up for a shot at Ilia Topuria, the reigning lightweight champion. Confident in his skill set, Tsarukyan dismissed Topuria's reputation as an untouchable striker. "I believe in myself," Tsarukyan stated. "I won't fight at his range. I'll play to my strengths. I don't think he'll be able to stop my takedowns." Move on to another news. Alex Pereira has made it clear what he wants next after reclaiming the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, and it isn't a defense against the current crop of contenders. The Brazilian knockout artist is aiming for the biggest fight possible, a heavyweight super fight with Jon Jones. Pereira recaptured the 205-pound belt in stunning fashion, delivering an 8-second TKO over Magomed Ankalaev in their rematch. The emphatic win silenced critics who labeled his first loss to Ankalaev a fluke, proving once again why he is considered one of the most dangerous strikers in MMA today. With the title back around his waist, speculation immediately turned to his next move. During his post-fight interview with Chris Weidman, Pereira confirmed his intention to move up to heavyweight. However, he was quick to dismiss the idea of facing the winner of the upcoming Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane matchup. Instead, Pereira set his sights directly on Jon Jones, the reigning heavyweight champion. "I know fighters don't make the matchups. It's the UFC that decides," Pereira said. "But if it were up to me, I want a super fight. Not just another fight at heavyweight, I want Jon Jones at the UFC White House event." The statement left little doubt about Pereira's ambitions. While Weidman suggested the more conventional route, waiting for the winner of Aspinall versus Gane, Pereira refused to entertain that direction. His focus remained firmly on Jones, whom many consider the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Pereira's push for the matchup reflects both his confidence and his understanding of the sport's entertainment value. A fight with Jones would not only draw massive pay-per-view interest, but also cement Pereira's status as one of the UFC's most daring champions. Moving from middleweight to light heavyweight, and now potentially to heavyweight, Pereira continues to chase history across divisions. Whether the UFC agrees to book the fight remains to be seen. Dana White has expressed some hesitation in the past about Pereira making a two-division jump. Still, the Brazilian striking power, star presence, and now championship status make him a unique candidate for one of the most marketable fights in UFC history. For now, Pereira holds the light heavyweight throne once more, but his ambitions stretch beyond defending it. The only fight he wants is a showdown with Jon Jones, a clash of champions that could redefine the modern era of the UFC. Move on to another news. Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz have reignited their long-running feud, this time over the possibility of a boxing match. Poirier, who has stepped away from MMA competition, admitted that a bout with Diaz under Zuffa boxing could tempt him out of retirement. Yet, despite years of anticipation, Diaz doesn't appear eager to finally make the fight happen. Fans will recall that Poirier and Diaz were originally scheduled to clash in 2018, but the fight never materialized. Recently, Poirier expressed his willingness to trade punches with Diaz in a boxing ring. However, Diaz fired back on social media, dismissing the idea with his trademark bluntness. "I'd beat your ass, but you're not allowed," Diaz wrote, before adding, "You had your chance. You punked out. Get some sleep, you old retired." Notably, Diaz misspelled allowed as allowed, which Poirier quickly mocked in response. "Dog, I have an 8th grade education," Poirier quipped. Allowed. Maybe a spelling bee competition versus Nathaniel would be the hardest fight of both of our careers. The playful yet cutting back and forth highlighted their unresolved rivalry and showed that neither man has softened with age or retirement. While Diaz taking shots at Poirier is nothing new, it raises the question of whether he might eventually be persuaded to accept a lucrative boxing match. There are complications though. Dana White has suggested that Zuffa boxing is meant to showcase rising boxing talent rather than provide aging MMA stars with crossover fights. On the other hand, Diaz has signaled interest in returning to the UFC, particularly at a time when Conor McGregor is rumored to headline the UFC's White House card. A trilogy fight with McGregor would represent a massive payday and could be why Diaz is brushing aside Poirier's offer. For now, the Poirier-Diaz rivalry remains a war of words, but with the right financial incentive, it could still spill into the ring. Until then, both fighters seem content taking verbal jabs, keeping fans invested in a matchup that has been teased for nearly a decade. Move on to another news. Alex Pereira wasted no time setting his sights on the future after reclaiming a UFC light heavyweight title, and his ambition is clear. He wants Jon Jones, not the current wave of contenders. The Brazilian striker regained his championship in emphatic fashion at UFC 320, delivering a devastating knockout against Magomed Ankalaev. This win avenged his prior loss to Ankalaev earlier in the year and solidified Pereira as the first fighter since Jon Jones to recapture the 205-pound belt after losing it. For Pereira, it was more than just redemption. It was proof that he remains one of the most dangerous athletes in mixed martial arts. As speculation swirled about what could be next, many assumed Pereira would either defend his newly regained crown or potentially challenge the winner of the upcoming Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane heavyweight clash. Instead, Pereira quickly shut down the idea of following a conventional path. During his post-fight comments, he made his intentions clear. He wants to leap straight into a super fight with reigning heavyweight king Jon Jones. I know it's not the fighters who make the matchups. It's the UFC, Pereira said. But if I had my way, I'd go straight for Jon Jones. I'm not looking for just another fight at heavyweight. I want the biggest fight possible, a true super fight. His comments drew immediate attention, as Jones is widely regarded as the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. While Jones has been sidelined due to injury and has yet to confirm his competitive return, Pereira's call-out reflects both his confidence and his appetite for history-making challenges. Some critics suggest Pereira may be targeting an easier stylistic matchup in Jones, rather than risk facing the younger and faster Aspinall, who has been carving a dominant path through the heavyweight division. Still, Pereira's record of chasing big fights speaks for itself. He moved from middleweight to capture the light heavyweight crown, and now he's eyeing the chance to carve out an unprecedented legacy by conquering 3 divisions. A showdown between Pereira and Jones would represent more than just another fight. It would be a collision between two men who have defined eras at 205 pounds. For the UFC, it's a potential blockbuster that could headline a historic card, including the rumored UFC White House event. Move on to another news. Merab Dvalishvili continues to cement his place at the top of the bantamweight division after a dominant win over Corey Sandhagen at UFC 320. While not everyone considered him the greatest bantamweight prior to this fight, his latest performance has forced many to reconsider. From the opening rounds, Sandhagen had some early success, showing his striking and movement. But in the second round, Dvalishvili lived up to his promise of pushing the pace. A barrage of heavy hooks staggered Sandhagen, and for a moment, it appeared the finish was imminent. Though Sandhagen managed to survive, the relentless Georgian never slowed down. As always, his cardio seemed limitless, and he kept pressing forward with a pace few in the division can handle. In round 3, Dvalishvili maintained control, and by the 4th, Sandhagen tried to rally with sharp uppercuts that briefly threatened to shift the fight. Yet, Merab ended the round on top, reminding everyone of his grappling dominance. In the final frame, his signature pressure and wrestling closed the show, leaving no doubt on the judges' scorecards. With this win, his championship reign remains unshaken. Dana White was quick to praise Dvalishvili afterward, even labeling him the greatest bantamweight champion in UFC history. When I first saw him, Matt Serra told me he'd be one of the greatest champions ever, White recalled. It took a while for others to see it, but now it's undeniable. Corey is an incredibly tough guy, and even if it wasn't the most exciting fight, Merab dominated. That's what greatness looks like. The question now is, who's next for Dvalishvili? Having already beaten the top 4 ranked bantamweights, the division doesn't present an obvious challenger. Umar Nurmagomedov is a possibility since he gave Merab a tough fight earlier this year, but he's already booked to face Mario Bautista at UFC 321. Petr Yan, riding a 3-fight win streak, could be an option, though Merab defeated him in 2023, and the UFC may not want to revisit that matchup so soon. Still, with the UFC often looking to strengthen its year-end cards, it wouldn't be surprising to see the promotion call on Merab for another title defense before 2025 closes out. The Georgian star himself has expressed interest in staying active, even hinting he'd like to fight again before year's end.